everybody, welcome to We Chef. I'm Chef Laura. Thanks for being with me today. We are going to make strawberry shortcake today. I love this stuff, and strawberry season is coming pretty soon, and the strawberries seem to be getting better at the grocery store right now. So let's get to it. The first thing we're gonna make is our shortcake part, and this is kind of like a rustic looking biscuit, okay? This is how I like to make them. Everybody kind of has their own, I feel like their own way to do strawberry shortcake, but this is the Chef Laura way we're gonna do today. So in my bowl, I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. To that, I am going to add 1 tablespoon of baking powder. So our the shortcake part is kind of like a biscuit, and biscuits rise and are flaky, so the baking powder is gonna help that rise and that flakiness. I also have 3 tablespoons of sugar, because it's a dessert, right? So it needs to be sweet, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Even though it's dessert and we want it to be sweet, we still need to add a little salt to create some balance, bring out flavors, and make it good. So the next thing we're gonna do is to our flour, salt, sugar, baking powder mixture, we are going to add 4 tablespoons of butter. Now, I have taken this butter and I have cubed it. See those nice little cubes I have in there? So we are going to do something called cutting in our butter. Now, there is a tool you can use for this. It's kind of a U shape, and it has a handle on top, and it has like 3 or 4 wires, and you press it into your butter. I like doing this by hand. This is like my favorite thing. There's something really peaceful to me about doing this. So I'm going to cut my butter in by hand. So I grab some flour, I grab one of those little cubes of butter, and I rub it between my fingers, making that piece of butter smaller, incorporating it slightly into the flour. And we want to be left with little pea-sized pieces of butter. So little green pea-sized pieces of butter, roughly, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. You might have some pieces that are going to end up being a little bit bigger, some a little bit smaller, but roughly that's what we want. It's going to look crumbly. And what happens is with these little pieces of butter that are left behind in our recipe, as our little shortcake bakes, those little nuggets of butter are gonna melt and they're gonna steam, and that steam is gonna push the dough apart, creating that nice flakiness that we're looking for. It's what we do for biscuits, it's what we do for pie dough, it's what we do for scones, the same technique, and that's why all these things end up being so delicious and buttery and flaky. So I'm about there, and this might take you a little bit to get there. And again, don't make yourselves crazy. 2 things you're looking for: the little chunks of butter, no real big guys floating around. You also don't want to overdo it. If your mixture starts looking wet, you've gone too far. So you don't want to mix this in so far that the butter is really making your flour wet. Sometimes my kids here at We Chef, it is such kind of a relaxing thing to do that they just keep going and going and going, and then all of a sudden everything's a little wet. So we want to get it so it looks a little crumbly. Nice clean hands. I'm ready to move on. I have my butter nice and cut into my flour mixture. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a cup of cream. I'm going to pour that into this other little bowl and get all of it out of there. Then I am going to take an egg. I'm going to firmly hit it against the side of my table. I like to do that. Instead of my bowl, you get a better crack in your egg. I'm going to put my thumbs gently into that crack in that egg and pull my thumbs away from each other and let that egg fall in my bowl. I'm going to take my whisk, I spilled a little, and then mix up that egg into that cream. You don't need to go crazy. It doesn't have to be totally perfect. Then I am going to pour that egg and cream mixture into my flour mixture. going to take a nice mixing spoon and I'm going to gently mix this together. I don't want all my flour to go everywhere, even though I dribbled a bit with my cream. But we're gonna mix this together in this bowl. And this is a pretty firm mixture, so you gotta use a little muscle. And make sure you're getting underneath all that dough and getting everything mixed in, okay? We don't want to overmix because we don't want to lose those little nuggets of butter that we worked so hard to get when we were cutting in the butter in that mixture. So can you see it's a pretty firm mixture. It's not, well, I was gonna say it's not falling off my spoon, but it is very slowly falling off my spoon. Now, the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to grab my sheet tray. Get this dough off of the spoon here. Okay, I'll set that over there. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna just do some nice big spoonfuls, heaping spoonfuls of this dough onto our tray. So this, again, this is your shortcake. It's kind of like a biscuit. Whoops, I'm gonna scooch that one over a little bit. I was able to get 10 of these shortcakes. It all kind of depends on how you scoop. Don't be afraid to half this recipe or even quarter this recipe if you would like. Just make sure you're doing the math right. There are 16 tablespoons in a cup. There are 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. Just make sure you're doing the math right to make sure this comes out. I know sometimes people are afraid to make recipes smaller. I do it all the time, and as long as you do the math right, it works. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna brush all of these little shortcakes with cream. And I like them being irregularly shaped. I suppose if you really did not like that, you could make them more into, use a round circle cutter on them and make them into more uniform shapes. I like the kind of randomness, rustic look of this, but I know that's not for everybody. So do what makes you and your mind happy, guys. Okay, so everybody's getting cream all over the top. We're using cream in this because instead of egg makes it really glossy, and it's just not the look we're going for in this application. So, so we are using cream to brush on top, and that's gonna help our shortcakes achieve a nice golden brown color. Then, now that I've done that, I'm going to take a coarse grind of sugar. So this isn't just regular sugar, it's larger little pellets of sugar. And I'm gonna give a really liberal, good sprinkle of sugar on top. This is gonna do 2 things. 1, it's gonna look pretty. And 2, it's actually gonna give it a nice little crunch. So we're gonna put that on the top of each one and into the oven at 375 degrees until they're golden brown. I'm gonna guess it's gonna take about 15 minutes or so, okay? There are 2 more components we need for our strawberry shortcake. We need strawberries, of course, and then we need some whipped cream. The first thing we're gonna do is prepare our strawberries. In my saute pan on my stove top, I have a 1/4 cup of water, and I'm going to add equal parts honey to that. Oops, and I didn't open my honey. Silly me. Okay, let's try this again. Now we're gonna get our honey out of here. So we're gonna do a 1/4 cup of honey and a 1/4 cup of water. We're just gonna bring those together. We're gonna let that just come to a boil and then turn it off. Just so the water and the honey come together. Okay. Super. Okay, I'm gonna set that there because I'm going to use it for mixing in a little bit. So I have my honey and my water coming to a boil. I'm going to cut my strawberries now. So I am going to cut off the top greens, okay? And this works with either this knife or one of the kids' knives that I love. Let me show you those. Again, if you don't recall. These guys from Curious Chef, they're fantastic kids' knives. They don't cut everything, but they do a really good job. Sometimes adults, you might have to make a smaller, make whatever vegetable you're cutting smaller so that they can handle it, or an apple, something that's harder like an apple or a raw potato, that can't make it through a whole, this one can't make it through a whole piece of that. But if you make it a smaller piece, then they can cut through it. So I'm going to cut my strawberries into bite-sized pieces, however you like that to look. Cut those strawberries. If you like slices, if you like quarters, whatever it is. We're gonna cut off those top greens. We're gonna flip it over onto its flat side. I'm gonna cut mine down the middle, and then I'm giving 2 more cuts throughout my berry. And we are just going to do a few of these. I'm obviously not going to be eating all 10 of these strawberry shortcakes right now, so I'm not gonna do too many of them. So we're gonna stop at this. Okay, so I have my I did 4 strawberries here. And I'm just gonna pour a little of this honey syrup over the top. If I was doing a larger recipe for all 10 of those shortcakes, I would of course put more, but I just want to pour on enough so that I can coat these strawberries in a little bit of honey. Then I'm going to set those aside. Now, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to make our whipped cream. And also I want to go back to the honey for a second. If you don't dig the honey, not everybody likes the flavor of honey. If you don't like that, leave it off, just do plain strawberries. That's totally fine too. This just gives a little bit more dimension, okay? So in my bowl right here, we're gonna make some whipped cream by hand. So I have some heavy whipping cream. I have a cup of heavy whipping cream. I have a teaspoon of powdered sugar. We have our sweet strawberries. We have our sweet shortcake. I don't wanna make my whipped cream overly sweet as well. And then I'm just gonna start mixing and whipping. I like to have races with my kids here at We Chef. So you gotta really mix, use those muscles, mix it up. You can absolutely use your stand mixer or your electric hand mixer to whisk this up, but I think it's a fun challenge, and I like the kids to see the cream go through. I like them to see where it comes from. It starts as something liquidy, and then it becomes a beautiful whipped cream. And I'm actually almost there. You will find different brands of whipped cream whipped up differently. This particular brand is pretty easy to whip. I have other brands that take me personally a long time to whip, and I whip a lot of whipped cream by hand, so I have it down. So here's my whipped cream. We want it to be relatively firm, okay? In this application, we want our whipped cream to be firm. Here is our nice golden brown shortcake. I'm gonna set this on the countertop. I have a serrated knife. I am carefully going to cut through this. And since these are a little bit rustic-like we discussed, we're gonna maybe lose a couple little bits as we cut, and that's okay. But you do have to cut this gently, because since it's not like a compact round biscuit, and it is more natural in shape, you do have little bits that might fall off. Then I'm gonna take my strawberries and I'm gonna carefully pile these up on my shortcake. And I like a lot of strawberries, so I'm being kind of careful to create a nice structural tower here. Whoops, and I'm failing miserably right now. Okay, let's see here. Let's get that guy behaving and back on there. Okay, there we go. And then I'm gonna take a nice big dollop of whipped cream. And then I'm gonna put my lid kind of off to the side, back on my shortcake. And that's what I would do for all of those little individual guys. So I'm gonna clean up my plate. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe. If you ever have any questions, please email me at info@wechefchicago.com. And I hope you will join me for my next video. Take care, bye-bye.